Is there a thing about video?
Yeah, very good. No, I understand. Wait, hold on. Oh, I got it. Okay.
Somewhere in the neighborhood.
It's rather dog.
Thank you.
If you're in the audience, if you could go ahead and sign in on the Shine sheet, please, that'd be great.
I haven't read those yet. Okay, but we'll talk about it. You can start on this and make it possible. Yeah, you know, start. I don't know if it's still.
I'm drawing behind the right from getting one of the girls. Yeah, biggest behind one, walk the right over from me and then drop it.
Drop it, one or two places. Yeah,
Are you gonna throw it?
that's funny.
Split dating, they need a.
Okay, so it's 6:05, we're 5 minutes late, but I will call the meeting to order. All right, let's see, first order of business. Pledge of allegiance.
We never done it, or was it? Okay, who's, I didn't go in every corner, every meeting, I couldn't see it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Oh, you couldn't say that.
Okay, so first order is if there's a declaration of conflict of interest, anyone on the council have any conflict of interest with anything on the agenda? I'll start with April.
No.
Paul.
No.
Me, no, Misty.
No.
Okay, all right. The consent agenda is approval of minutes of the last 3 town council meetings. All 3 took place in the month of August. And that was the work meeting, the regular meeting, and then the special meeting that we had with the halls. And then ratification of the contract with Rocky Mountain Power I really had just put this on the agenda for everyone to be aware that we had the contract with Rocky Mountain Power, to remove the streetlights in Desert Gardens. So, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you, Paul. All in favor?
Aye.
I have to abstain, I did not, I didn't get a chance to look over
The minutes.
the minutes. So I
Okay.
have to abstain.
But will you,
I-
review and submit later?
Yes, I'll
Okay,
review
just-
and submit.
All right,
Or if she submits later, we'll have to amend minutes.
Mine are always grammatical, they're never any, there's never any changes.
grammatical and maybe, punctuation.
Yeah,
Okay, zoning reports, the zoning administrator, Mr. Gene Araki.
Well, this may have been the quietest month ever, so we really haven't had much, other than we did have a couple of DRC meetings, or a couple of people for the DRC.
Okay.
So we met with, Unplug again, to just kind of go over their stuff. Sorry, I'm getting that backward. We met with Zion Landing, which was the name of the one for up there by?
Zion's Landing on Pocket Hill Road.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they've all got these crazy names. That's the one we met with. They just wanted to know where they're at. We could push stuff off to the engineers. And they've got quite a bit of work to do yet, to move forward with theirs. This bottom one is the one I want to bring to your attention, no name as of yet. This is a group that is wanting to do workforce housing. And their intent was to put this right across the street of 1420, right across the street from where the gas station is, just north of Desert Gardens. And this is more just for an informative thing for you folks anyway, because that does not meet they don't meet the criteria for our ordinances, so we don't allow for multifamily dwellings or anything, conglomerated like that, so we just told them that they would need to work through the commission and council if they wanted to get that changed, but at this point in time, that's not plausible.
Okay.
And really, there's nothing else new on there. Is there anything you'd like to go over or anything you'd like to know? I can answer for you. I know April's asked several times about, what's next for the Little Creek project, and what their next scheduled events are. They're kind of in a holding pattern right now with engineering. It's getting reviewed again, so I don't know a whole lot other than that. I pointed them to the mayor because it was, yeah.
Okay, well, I have.
They just had they went from one engineering group to another group to have things checked, and we're doing one final check with our engineer with Rod Mills. Carl with, Pro Value backed out of dealing with any of it at this point. He feels like it might be too much of a conflict of interest, so for final, it'll go through Rod. That's about all I got.
Yeah, okay.
What engineering on the rest of the project?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, just kind of,
Well,
Oh, hold on, he can
he
explain more.
So what we've got is, we've got the final plat, the council has approved, but it's going through final staff review before it's been signed off by mayor, and then it comes to, and planning commission chair, and then it comes to the engineer and the attorney. I had told them, I said, I'm not signing anything until I have confirmation from the town that all of the public improvements within your project have been completed to our specifications. And, you know, and then I need to know, the value of those, and, so we can calculate the warranty bond. And, Carl provided that to me, and I had contacted Rod and said, Rod, I think as the town's engineer, it would behoove us to have you go and do an inspection and see that what the construction drawings say needs to be out there is out there and done. And he said, okay, I can do that. And then he wanted us to provide him with a copy of the construction drawings and compare it against and a final plat. And then we proposed on that, I let him have the Mylar. And he's like, why is Carl's signature on it. Because Carl's no longer the engineer, he's actually the project engineer. And, so that's what Rod has been working through. He told me that all he had sent legal off to his, mapping group up in Salt Lake, they were gonna confirm that everything ties, and then he would be able to sign the plat as the town engineer. They were taking Carl's name off of it, and then it would come back to me, and, I'm working with him on the bond. I'm trying to, I told him how much the bond needs to be for and what forms we accept as a town, and once I see that, I have reviewed their CCNRs and I have everything that I wanted in it as far as assessments with public improvements.
So the final plat, the plat map is not, it has not been submitted to the
It's not
county
any
because
building,
he was over
it's
that.
not the gas station, it's the actual 4 lots of.
Cool. Thank you. Give me that. I didn't have much to do with all that, so we kind of heard in a second.
It would be great if we could, get them to provide dust control and we have the reeds. I don't know how we go about doing that, but the project was.
I can talk to them for sure, so.
My understanding is that once the plat records, then I don't know what portion is being sold or not sold, but I know that at that point in time, the gas station is moving forward with completion. I think that it would behoove us that at any sort of final inspection that we require, that they put some, soil bonders to, and to clean up all of the weeds that are out there, that they can put some bonding agents that they spray onto the soil after it's or whatever. So
And you suggest that happen when?
at least when they come in with their occupancy,
When they do what?
before they get their certificate of occupancy for the
Okay.
gas station.
Oh, they haven't worked on that for 4 months.
It says they're holding off on waiting.
Because somehow, something, whether the gas station going forward has to do with the subdivision being recorded so that they could sell one or more of these lots.
And that it hasn't been recorded because there's some things that Carl said needed to be done. And we've handed it over to Rod to say, take care of this, go and check it out, and we're waiting on that.
So the town is not making the project fall behind them. It has
No.
nothing to do with the town.
No, the engineer on the project, came up with a list of things that needed to be done.
Okay.
And we're just following up to make sure.
But I said, that list came from Carl, who was our former town engineer, who's the projects engineer. And I said, I appreciate you making the list, and I'm so silent and you check and confirm, but I also would like Rod to look at your list and walk out there and inspect and make a final decision. If the punch list is complete, that might be a proper thing too, before they tell me everything's done, that we maybe you can ask them to weeds and best.
Okay.
So Jane, one other thing on this, the last item, the number 11, no name as of yet. Is that's zoned rural residential, is it not?
Well, that's up to debate. I don't know. They claim that it was commercial. I don't know if there's a record been found that it was ever changed back or that it was changed to commercial. I don't know. I don't know that, but regardless of it, I had this conversation with them. I said, I don't have any evidence that says what the zoning is. I always assumed it was commercial, but the town's saying it could be residential. Until that's shown otherwise, that's another hang up for them. But the main one is what they're trying to do is not allowed in our ordinances. Flat out, that's it. They can't build it, so. But we put it on there because they are claiming that they want to move forward with engaging with the town to make changes. So
Making changes in the code so that they can do what they wanna do,
that's
so they have to go to plan commission.
right. So I don't think this is gonna be anything that's gonna, we'll keep it on the list for a while, but I imagine it's many, many years type of work.
Yeah, that particular lot is really not very conducive to building, in my opinion.
No, it's not. They'll have, if they were to get all the ordinances changed, they'll spend millions just in the drainage there. Putting box culverts or whatever's required by engineering, so.
Okay,
it'd be a
thank
big-
you.
Just last thing real quick, Mayor, so, with the replacement of Kim with Shyla, she's very excited and wants to do some outreach, which I said, we're very slow right now. And so we're gonna look into just interacting with the community and coming back to the commission and council with things, hey, these are some things that people are interested in as far as businesses, since that is our job, is to solicit growth. We're just gonna kind of reach out, try some different things to bring ideas to you guys in our slow time.
Okay,
Any other questions, Blake?
Nope.
Thank you, guys.
okay, and planning commission.
It's been kind of a crazy month for
It has
planning
been.
and zoning.
It's been for us too, so.
We've had people in Alaska, we've had people in the hospital in Salt Lake, we've had people at Disneyland. And then we had the outage, the power outage last week, and we were all ready to meet. And the governor's chairman of the Dark Sky Committee was down to show a PowerPoint and make a presentation to us. He was here when it all went out, so at any rate, it's been kind of crazy.
Is he gonna be able to come back next month?
He teaches a class at the University of Utah, that date. But he's going to, in the evening, and so he's going to do it on,
September 25th?
virtual.
Oh.
We have the PowerPoint, and Crystal's gonna take care of that.
Okay.
I've told him that the town council might come, because they've invited themselves. I don't,
Oh, okay.
and so,
Oh, okay.
so that will be good, and it'll be an interesting presentation. You might wonder why Cameron showed up.
Yeah,
One of the problems that we've got is that we need 2 more commissioners now on planning and zoning, somebody to replace Cameron.
Oh, and Cameron came for that reason, he said, no, that's not
Yeah,
why he's here.
and I said if he came back, because he's kind of expressed an interest, if he came back, he'd have to start all over at the bottom. And so I, well, you could ask him, because, this coming up, we're working on the lighting ordinance, which we briefly talked about, and there are some things that we're tweaking a little bit, quote unquote. But not much, I think it's looking pretty good, and we'll have some presentation next week and discussion in our public hearing for the lighting. The same thing on the signage ordinance, a couple of tweaks in there that we're still working on, but I think it's on the agenda.
Yeah, it's on the agenda tonight, although Darlene was asking if it needed to go back to planning commission.
There's just a couple of little small things I think that she's concerned with the sign that we have, the billboard that we have, and making sure that we're clear and legal compliant with what's there as far as documents concerned. The other thing that we're working on, and well, next week, we'll be talking with Kevin about
The general plan.
the general plan and working with him a little bit, as well as Riker has some things for us on the agenda at that meeting as well. With Kevin, of course, it's the general plan, and with Riker, I think it's the neighborhood commercial and division of land, which are state issues, I think, that we'll be working on. That's this week, it's Thursday night when we have our work meeting. Darlene will be virtual. She's actually, I think, out of town again on something at the hospital for a checkup or something, and so she'll be making some presentation on a virtual basis.
Is that the meeting this
I
week?
think
or the
just
meeting-
by voice.
Is that the meeting this week or the meeting next week?
Probably both.
Okay.
Okay, if I could split it that way, because that's kind of where she's at. She's working there, and then she has nurses that come in each day, and they're training her to help with David's recovery. and he's doing well, by the way. So, but that's it. Any questions?
No, it just, all I ask is that next month that you guys please put on for public hearing the two ordinances that we sent over to you guys. We sent them last month. And they're not on the agenda. There was the ordinance, amending, planning commission. We added some language into the chapter 4 that has to do with planning commission. And then there was the ordinance that was amending the DRC language. So we have two different ordinances that we sent you guys last month, and those are not on the agenda, so they need to be on next month.
And to make it clear, we have kind of our work meeting this week and then our catch-up,
Yes,
public hearing next week.
okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, next is open forum. Is there anyone in the audience that has anything to say on open forum? Lovely. Okay, council comments. Anything from April?
So I would like to see the minutes, perhaps a little bit more complete by the time we get them to review them. Just making sure all the grammar is correct and maybe going back through the Zoom, YouTube video and, capturing a little bit more of the, discussion. I don't care who does that, but it would be nice if we, because sometimes I feel like we get the minutes and I have to go back and really look at a lot of those and, bring them to the actual minutes.
April, you're saying for council or for planning commission?
Council.
For council.
We don't see the minutes for planning commission,
Yeah.
will review those. Okay,
Just a suggestion, it would probably be helpful. Town council.
anything else? Okay, Paul?
Since we're gonna be considering the zone code, I know, I wanna update where we are with code enforcement. I know that we advertised, got some applications, they wanted more money, and so we weren't able to hire. So we were looking at either going back out, re-advertising, maybe doing kind of a program with Springdale, other towns, or yes, the third option is you come back to council with an increase for that position. Where are we with that?
Well, I interviewed somebody, 3 weeks ago. Oh, I've been gone for 2 weeks, so it's before that. Actually, I interviewed him the day before I left town for 2 weeks. And he's very interested in the job, but he really needs full-time. And this is not a full-time job. And I talked to Rockville, I sent his resume in Rockville. They actually had a code enforcement officer on their agenda that night, and I am waiting to hear from the mayor of Rockville.
So it's
what
still,
he's up to.
still in process then?
Yeah. But he was perfect, in my opinion, he was perfect for the position. It's just that he needed more work than what we could provide.
Are you, considering a sharing then?
Yeah, we were considering sharing.
Okay.
And I don't even know if we share, if that's even gonna get to full time, but he had these other skills, training and skills and certifications that I would love for the town to have access to someone with those skills, but, I still just don't know that we have the work for full time. He really needs full time, but he'd be perfect for the job with his training. Yeah, post-training peace officer, and I don't know what the S stands for.
Special functions officer.
Okay, and he has crisis intervention training, the guy, he would be perfect. So, we have to decide what we wanna do there. Because he did have other skills that have nothing to do with code enforcement that the town could use.
So does he need full-time, so he can stay busy full-time, or does he want a certain level of money and he's operating part-time, as long as he gets that level of income?
Well, I didn't ask him that.
I don't make him public works a couple of days a week and
Well, that's these other skills that he had that I thought could supplement public works, definitely. I just didn't know if we could come up with full-time. I mean, we can ask if he just has a certain dollar level he needs to meet, whether he's working part-time or full-time. Is
Well,
that what you're saying? Basically has a certain dollar value he needs
yeah,
to meet?
if that's what his,
Income level?
I guess I wanna know what his concerns are. Respect, but, with the code enforcement and what I see from, lighting provision that's coming out, we're gonna have to do an inventory of all the non-conforming lights in
He
town.
could be doing that.
He could be doing that, and it
Are we
appears
gonna
with,
help out people if we're gonna start doing non-conforming lights? Are we gonna help out our residents?
That'll have to be adjust whenever we do the lighting ordinance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
but he could do, we will address that in the lighting ordinance.
yeah, yeah, I mean, I agree with you that, yes, there needs to be some assistance with current members, but if we pass it, we're gonna have to do an inventory of what's all non-conforming.
Right.
And so we know what's conforming and non-conforming.
There's quite a bit just in my
And
neighborhood.
probably with the signs too, I would guess.
It's everywhere, our whole town.
Yeah, and even with the signs and with short-term rentals and all the violations, there'll be plenty to keep them busy for a year or
Okay.
more.
All right, so we'll call him and find out which, okay, understand.
Yeah, if you still gonna put it on, not instead of just giving, offering more and get some value out of it.
You're right, make him full-time to get some value out of it, I agree. Yeah, I'm not just gonna give him more money just to work part-time, if he's gonna get more money, he's gonna have to work full-time. So. If
Get
you,
our money's worth out of the house here.
we'll talk some more after.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks for the update.
okay. Any others besides that? Was that your other question?
Yeah, that was my question. because of the sign code.
Okay.
Yeah.
Misty, do you have something? No. Okay, well, the one thing I will say is I was at the Dixie MPO meeting today, and they indicated that, with they have planning grant funds that they have available every year, and they said this year, one community only applied for planning grant funds, and they have $50,000 left in the pot for anyone who wants to apply. So I talked to them after the meeting and indicated that where we have 700 west, 775 west, and now the people that have the property next to Balcony One made a beautiful driveway that's illegal, and coming off, and that's going to make even more problems. That's already a problem there at that intersection of people trying to turn left onto 700 west and getting rear-ended. And I almost got rear-ended one day, it's pretty scary. And now we have this driveway, so we've got 1, 2, 3, really quick. And now there's an issue of a business right there on the corner. And them using 700 west because they can't get a driveway into their property, they'd have to come off 700 west to go in. And then their people would come out and then have to turn left onto the highway or right, whichever. And that just adds to the whole thing. So I drew it out on the map and asked Dixie MPO planning department if this is something that they would consider for this planning grant. They said absolutely, just that $50,000 isn't gonna be enough, and we would have to contribute some money toward this for them to come in and do some planning. So just thought I'd tell everybody that that's available, and I want to apply for it. For that those three, that whole little section there from Buffalo Trails down to Kenny's house. So. Okay,
So one more thing, at the work meeting, we talked about. Our town engineer had some plans to do some. I don't think it's on our agenda.
yeah, it's on page 2, it's number 6.
I was on it too.
Oh, it's number 6.
Okay, never mind.
Okay,
I'm good.
okay. Okay, so if there's nothing else on council comments, we will move on to the next section of the agenda. And I would like to, since the holes are here, what I'd actually like to do is split number 1 and 2 and do number 2 first to discuss the development agreement. And then they don't have to hang out for the rest of the. Any objection to that? No, okay. All right, so we will go ahead and discuss the development agreement from Dayton on behalf of the, Darwin and Shirley Hall Family Trust. Okay, so in the work meeting, the special meeting, we had a special meeting on August the 27th. And where we talked with Dayton and Shirley about, the rezone, and if you guys remember, we approved the rezone request for the 3 properties that front the highway, subject to a development agreement that had certain, elements in it. And we now have a development agreement from them that contains, as far as I'm aware, all of the elements are conditions that we requested. So, do we approve this? This development agreement just came on 79. We didn't have it at the work meeting. So,
I have reviewed it and.
you have or have not?
I have, I was at the work meeting, but it contains everything that I understood. The council wanted, dealing with. The zone change and how it was going to be agreed to in a development agreement, that the zone change is modified. To only apply to front lots that, they're granted a waiver of fee, a one-time waiver of fee to apply for a zone change to the back one when they see fit. You know, and likely that wouldn't be until there was a better understanding of, you know, if we do come up with some sort of, different zone that's been talked about. It also indicates very clearly, and this is going to be recorded against the property, that notwithstanding the approved, the permitted and conditional uses, the 3 that was designated by the town as being not permitted, is contained in there. So I felt like Dayton was short, nice, clear, and concise. And I didn't see something that made me hair on something, but it's just a parcel.
And he's given us the corrected page.
Corrects it up here. And then adds the word as, which is completely fine.
So the first page with the corrections was in everybody's packet. So,
At the previous meeting, I raised the question as a concern that with the uses that were being proposed, whether we have to go back to the planning board. And then the mayor cited 532, and I 10-98 532. I took a look at that regulation, and I'm still a little bit concerned about subdivision, subsection 2, triple I.
okay,
It
hold on,
says-
wait.
We're talking
Let's make it there.
Utah code, right?
Yes, no, not town code,
No, Utah code.
Utah code.
Okay, hold on, let me get that, up. See what you're talking about as you're talking about it.
And 9523.
532, parens 2, parens, I, parens.
Okay, hold on, 10-9A 532. 532, what?
532,
Okay,
subsection 2,
okay,
and then you go down, there's,
oh, section 3.
Yeah.
Roman numeral 3.
yeah, basically it says the development agreement may not allow a use or development of land where the land regulations for otherwise prohibit that use. Unless the legislative body approves the development agreement in accordance with what we do for enacting land use regulations, planning board and public hearing. In other words, I think that's consistent with that Wallingford versus Moab decision concerning going with. And I looked at all the uses, public, stable, and agricultural industry businesses. Initially, I was concerned about that. We have this unique provision that we have chart, And the chart uses that as permitted use for those. And it doesn't say whether the language or the chart governs, so I'd be all right with that. The concern is with equine activity. And so I think that it should go back to the planning board just to be on the
You feel
safe
like
side.
there's adding of use
I felt like it's adding a use that's not already there.
that's not permitted.
That's not permitted by the current regulations. Land use regulations. And that's what I'm concerned about. And it's an easy fix. Just send it back and then it will come back. I think the agreement, Dave did a really good job of drafting it. I have no problem with the language of the agreement. It's just that I want to make sure that we're in compliance with the statute and the Wallingford versus Moab case, although I realize that the factual basis of that case is different, but the rationale still would apply. And that's what I'm concerned about. And it seems like a simple fix. It's a 1 month, delay at best.
Dave, do we understand what this section of the code is the section on development agreements? And for the longest time, there was not a lot of guidance to municipalities on development agreements, and they were starting. So you've got this, and it basically says, Dave, he's in 98,532. Got it. It basically says if you're going to allow use for development of land that is basically otherwise prohibited, unless the legislative body approves the development agreement in accordance with the same procedures as enacting a land use regulation. So his point is, by us, and I don't think that applies to prohibiting additional or dropping uses, but adding a use that's not permitted or conditional, it would be, he's questioning whether we need to be under this and go through the same process, which would be public hearing, planning commission recommendation, and then back to you guys, which is a month delay.
So the question then is whether equine activities is permitted either under the current use, the current zoning, or the proposed zoning. And so I didn't review the tables. There are equine activities today. There are horses being housed there right now. There's training activities going on, and there have been for decades at the property today. And so I would submit that equine activities is a pre-existing non-conforming use that we don't need to drag this out anymore.
Isn't that allowed for residential though? Would you change the zone?
I actually don't know what's allowed. I'm just saying that it has existed for decades, and so it's a non-conforming use today.
You're saying would not a zone change brought by the landowner supersede any legal non-conforming use?
There's not.
I feel Dave's trying to rural residential.
So allow a use.
Okay,
That would otherwise prohibit.
I really think it's something that the planning board, after it takes public testimony, will more likely approve. But I have that concern that there's kind of an element of contract zoning that I'm worried about.
Well, okay, but let me ask you this, I'm looking rural residential, the very first conditional use is agricultural business. Help me understand better what's going on the property. Horses are being raised, is there a charge for people to come train or what? I don't know that I understand.
Yeah, so there's horses are being housed, they are being trained, there's an arrangement for,
They're being charged for the keeping of the horses.
yeah, and trade for labor and services, so there is consideration being provided for keeping.
So to me, Paul, we would you agree that that's what they're doing on their property is an agricultural business?
In rural residential zone, probably,
Yeah.
Okay.
it's allowed in that.
I want to point out something before we go any further. Paul, when you brought this topic up, you brought up the chart. That's in chapter 30, correct?
Yes,
All right, so if we go to the chart. And you go to the commercial zone in the chart on chapter 30 in our town code.
that does not have equine.
No, but it has agricultural business is
But then you have,
permitted.
then you have to read agricultural business, and that's what I'm,
And has public stable is permitted. And I agree, equine activities is not on that list.
but equine activities is allowed in agricultural zones.
But
Is there a
it's
separate-
listed as permitted on this chart.
Hold on, we don't have a definition or a term of equine activities, do we?
The definition is in our
No, we
definitions.
don't.
It's in our definitions.
No, it isn't.
No, equine.
Or did you just add it?
I'm pretty sure there's a definition for equine activities.
Learning.
No, there isn't. I don't think there is on the one.
Let me see.
Equine professional, equine
Equine
activity
activities, it's right
sponsor.
there. Equine activities
Oh,
is
yes.
right here. It's right there.
But we don't allow that particular use
In
in commercial.
Okay. However, we were just discussing whether an equine activity qualifies as an agricultural business. And under the chapter 30 chart, agricultural business is listed as a permitted use.
But I think this is different than agricultural business.
I don't think so, because it says farming and contract farming and ranching. I mean, if you read the definition, it's in there.
No,
Because an agricultural production could in fact have, which includes breeding, conservation, farming, distribution, farming, management, production,
Let's make it-
processing, and ranching. Ranching is different than farming. Farming is the ground.
and
Ranching is cattle and horses. They are in an agricultural business with their horses.
but I think ranch is different than equine question and
No,
activities.
it's not.
That's a business.
It is not. They go hand in hand. You train your horse to work a cow. That is what they're doing. They're training their horses to work cattle. They're training their horses to work with the rider who works the cattle. That is.
So what's the issue of holding up 1 month?
Well, we're 9 months in. That's the issue.
Well,
Why would they not worry? I mean, we've been strong arming these guys for 9 months.
And to give you a little bit of insight, my mom wrote a letter that she wanted to read to you, and I said, Mom, hold on, like, we're making a deal tonight. We're not making waves. I've got a brother who's the successor trustee on this trust, and he was calling me, questioning whether we should even do this, like. This is causing the development agreement, like, why would we agree to this? Why are we gonna put restrictions on this property? Your ordinance says it's available, an available use. And so, just to come here and then get hit with this, like, we're ready to just go see what a judge has to say about the definition of the word available in your commercial code. Like, that's kind of where we're at. So, I think you've got grounds based upon the historical use and the permitted uses right now in the current zoning. Go ahead and approve this. I'm not concerned about the enforceability of it. The development agreement, this is what's on the table. It's on the table tonight. And I don't know if Heath has any strong opinions otherwise, but I feel like you've got the grounds to say that we're not restricting. We're not permitting a use that's not otherwise permitted. It's an existing use. It's been there for a while. So I don't know.
well, if it fits under the definition of agricultural businesses, couldn't we just delete equine activity and leave it as agricultural industry or businesses?
No.
Cover the cover.
No, we want equine activity. It calls out boarding and training horses. It's a really good definition that's in your current code. We want that definition in the development.
So is that different than agricultural industry and business?
There's lots of overlap, significant overlap.
But
They go hand in hand, they're not separate.
Okay, let me tell.
my answer is not gonna be what Dayton likes, but in my mind, the specific overrides the general, and there is a specific definition of equine activities, very specific. Yes, does it overlap into possibly agricultural business? But we have to assume if the court's looking at this and interpreting it, it has to assume that each word and defined term is used advisedly, is what our case law and stuff says. So to the point that if it's in there, it was intentional. If it's not in there, it was intentional. And where we have a definition and it does not show as prohibited or conditional, I wanted to jump back to, I don't think equine activity is not even a conditional use in that zone. I think we have to look at that and say, assume, like a judge would look at that and say that that was advisable, it's intentional. That it doesn't say equine activity. That's not what Dayton wants to hear, but I think that would be the legal way that a judge would look at it. And because of that, we would be adding a use. Now, that all being said, practicality of this whole thing is, you could say that this is a agricultural business. And just be done with it and say, we're not adding a use. It's a specific use, but it's also a general use and we can be done with it tonight. I don't know that there's gonna be too much challenge from adjacent property or anything like that.
Given that
But
it's
but
been
it's
there for decades.
precedence of creating,
Well, I did it.
yeah.
So, another subject. Doesn't the town have a, development agreement currently with another
Yes,
business? And has that development agreement been used as it should have been used? Is it?
in my opinion, no, but I have not sat down and pulled it up and looked at it for, since I've been mayor, I haven't gone and looked at it, but I know what was in that development agreement, because I was on the council and it came up with it.
But well, that's kind of like saying when we reach an agreement on a development agreement, whether or not we enforce all the restrictions in it or not. It says right in the agreement, we don't waive the right to enforce the future, and you need to look at that as any other law. We have plenty of laws that people are violating that we're not necessarily enforcing, it doesn't waive our right to enforce the future. But if your question is, are we following an existing development agreement? I don't know which one you're talking about, you may or may not be, but, I don't know that that's a reason to approve or deny.
This,
I mean, Dayton, what if you delete equine activity and just say public stable and agricultural industry or business for rents, which includes equine activity for rents?
I take that real quick.
Because it's not a separate use, then it's that activity within agricultural industry or business.
so you're saying, say, just move the words equine activity,
Yeah,
put them
well,
in a parentheses
Which-
after agricultural industry or business,
Yeah,
comma,
So
including.
what the council's doing is making an interpretation that by approving it, they're interpreting that agricultural business includes. Take that right. It's specifically development agreement dating, and we haven't tracked it out and needed to allow you to do it.
Okay, so we're gonna say,
On
as
page-
defined in exhibit B shall be permitted on the property. And so we're listing out what's permitted. We're saying public stable and agricultural business or industry,
Which
comma, which includes
Equine.
capital equine, capital activity, because those are defined terms.
Yes.
We're okay with that.
Okay.
Let's say yes.
So,
So let me go consult with my client.
Yeah.
we can take a minute, you can step outside.
Okay, yeah.
We can, Dave, we'll take a 5-minute break, you guys can talk, okay? So we're gonna take a 5-minute break.
Okay.
So, April? Yes. When you asked for that development agreement, I've been out now, we're almost done. So I realized today that I'm gonna just get that development before, just because I've been out.
Yeah, go which way you're going.
It's just one development. One in our history.
But.
And so. These are standard.
That's. So you to play without. You see this really well. What's the procedure you keep the town's name on the return address, because the town doesn't get charged for filing fees. My name is on that. So you put in I'll just slip.
So Jay's is one.
We won't have another.
Because I don't know. Right? This is just a. That's why. I know there's a lot.
Crystal, you have a belt, he's on map, you can go up here.
You're in, correct? You want to come
Will you email it to me too, so I can. If you don't worry. We don't need to.
Really close to like that.
I need to leave you out on the go. Cause you thought it was.
Okay.
You know, we realized it. 10:30?
I think it's obviously. Well, it's on there. But I think I have to go out and do the site.
So.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm afraid to do it.
Yes.
You do that. Yeah.
In rural. Same words,
There's someone.
except it has some additional conditions. But that's what
Yeah.
all right, are we ready to go back on? Okay. All right, we took our break, you can still, Dayton consulted with his client, and so come tell us what your client has agreed to.
That proposal's okay,
Okay.
to make that word change as described previously.
Okay, and what else were you guys just discussing?
Oh, just that he's gonna keep the pagination and make the change.
That's what I want to find out.
And so
Okay.
if you'll sign, then.
He can go ahead and file it.
He can, I don't have to, if that's the easiest, what's easier for you? I've got a paralegal who goes over there pretty much every day, if I tell you to go over this, you go.
I'll let you do it. So the trustee, my mom will sign tomorrow. So you can give your copy to Bristol Mayor, so then we'll have the signatures on the same page. And I'll let you guys coordinate it with them. But I'll make that change tonight and get that email.
Okay. So with that in mind. We need to have, motion to approve with those, with that change that you proposed.
I move for the approval of the proposed development agreement with the halls with the following change to paragraph, I believe it's 4.
Yes,
Last sentence where it reads permitted on the property, delete equine activity, so it will read public stable and agricultural industry or business, which includes equine activity periods. Period.
And equine activities in capital.
yes,
Capital E and capital A.
any second?
Second.
I don't know that we need a roll call vote for this, so all in favor? Aye. April? So say I didn't hear an aye coming over there.
And I know we have some citizens that are really interested in trying to create a corridor, park corridor. I know you said, as long as we're willing to purchase it, and hopefully if we can make it work, maybe that's a possibility sometime in the future.
All right, so the open agreement has, for the vote of 3-1. And so why is this now handed to Bristol? I thought you were gonna take it.
No. His mom needs to sign it.
Oh, she needs to sign it. Okay, that's right.
He's our. Yeah, just, and then just send it in.
Okay. Just want to be sure.
Yeah, sign it all over.
Okay, so we're good, so that one has been taken care of, and then we're gonna go back and do the item, what was on the agenda is item number 1, which is the resolution establishing, resolution T is in Tom. Setting the name Cockville Hollow for, the land that was previously Pocketville Park. So as you guys know, we did, multiple, votes on the name for the park, and the last vote, this past month was Pocketville Hollow 89, Pocketville Park 14. And, so it seems that in fact, the spread for the vote was even further apart than the spread from the vote that was done in February. So you guys, I was not at the work meeting last week, but I understand that you guys asked Crystal, and I had already told her I wanted this for today to print out all the comments that people had made on their different votes, because several people had made comments, and so you guys asked for them, and I had already told them to print about for tonight. So you guys have those there to look at. So I know there was quite a bit of angst among some town residents about the changing of the name of Pocketville Park, Pocketville Hollow. And so we went through this whole process with the vote, name suggestions, a vote, a runoff from the top two vote getters. And Pocketville Hollow won the vote, and we had already changed the name of the park a year ago to Pocketville Hollow. That was a placeholder name until we had a vote, and now we've had a vote. And Pocketville Hollow still came out as the top vote. So. Any discussion?
We didn't have the resolution at
No, we didn't have the resolution of the work session.
so my question is, because I looked at the resolution, what are we trying to do? Are we just renaming the park to Pocketville Hollow? Or are we trying to repurpose the park?
I have said this entire time that I'm not changing anything that's happening there. I had an idea, but just because I had an abstract idea a year ago doesn't mean that I still want to pursue that abstract idea a year later. That was just an abstract idea I had a year ago. People always change their minds. We're not changing the use of the area. People can still go over there and bring their dogs, and there was somebody who was doing dog training sessions. I'm not sure what happened there, and that suddenly seemed to have stopped. I used to drive by and see somebody doing dog training sessions all the time, and I haven't seen them in a long time. So I don't know what happened there, but people can still go over there and park, they can still go over there and eat, they can walk their dogs. I mean, nothing's gonna change with the way they're using it.
Here's my question, because what was added to this resolution compared to the previous one was the whereas in item 7, whereas the property located on 10 East and Highway 9 will be common property and a gathering place for both towns, residents and visitors.
Yes.
And it seems like, to me, it's more than just a name change, it's kind of taking it out of the current park system.
The last.
Which I have a concern about, because if we do that, then are we going to be able to use impact fees to improve the park if it isn't within our park systems? And I'm concerned that that language is kind of repurposing it, which should be a completely different resolution altogether. I don't mind the name change. The individual folder, that was fine. main concern they voted. I don't care if the business has alcohol or not. In fact, I prefer that they have alcohol because citizens want it and it will help the business.
We'll get tax revenue.
But, yeah, the tax revenue, but, I know there are some citizens that have been very concerned about the park being repurposed.
Okay.
And that one, whereas, kind of leads you to that conclusion.
Okay, all I did, the
Can we
previous,
delete that one, whereas?
no, the previous resolution said it would remain common property. That is not an addition to the previous resolution. What is an addition to the previous resolution is, and a gathering place for both town residents and visitors. But I absolutely had in there common property in the previous resolution a year ago. It was absolutely there.
No, it wasn't.
Yes. It is, I will show
I
you.
don't think that
I
was.
had
It
the
was
same.
absolutely there.
I actually had the same concerns when I read that.
Nope, I'm gonna pull it up, and show you.
I think that, my suggestion is to strike that,
No,
whereas.
it's already, it is absolutely in here. Well, I'm gonna show you.
No, it doesn't matter at this point, because even if it's there, I'm not gonna vote for it, so. So unless that whereas is stricken, you're not.
You feel like that's changed?
Yeah, I mean, it was already common property.
Like, I'm not arguing, I'm asking a question. So,
Yeah, I
you
think
feel like
it-
that changed?
I think it creates an issue as to whether it remains in our park system, and then I'm concerned about the use of impact fees for it in the
Because
future.
initially, when we talked about this, we call them parks, but we hadn't actually set them aside as parks.
What's that? I'm sorry,
We
don't follow.
hadn't actually set them aside as parks. We have named them parks,
Right.
both of them,
I-
but they were never actually added as parks.
No, none of our parks are
None of our
actually.
parks are actually established as parks by resolution or by zoning.
We have,
Never had them done that
We
way.
have-
That was brought up when we initially started this change.
we have called them parks
So-
and we treated them like parks.
Right,
And we expended park funds to improve.
correct. However, it's not changing the use. It's still a common meeting place for
Yeah.
townspeople and visitors.
I told you that I added and a gathering place, that's all I added.
Okay, I'm
That
sure.
was right there.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm
it
gonna
was there
change,
last year.
that's fine.
Okay. What about if we change it to say open space? Cause it's open space.
No.
We want it to remain in the name of the park.
No, Pocketville Hall is fine. I would like just to remove the whereas number 7. To eliminate any argument that we have repurposed the park and to prevent maybe the use of impact fees on that.
Doesn't that then create, some contradiction in the, whereas the zoning of commercial properties on either side of said property pre-existing union, virgin, not located. A park, quote, restricts commercial opportunities of the two commercial properties. So
I'd actually like all 6 and 7 stricken, but,
I mean, the idea was just
The
to
idea-
change the name.
name of the park to Pocketville Hall.
and you don't want it addressing the purpose of it, it's just.
I don't want to address any purpose and use.
Fine, I don't care. I really don't care. Okay. Make your motion. Any more discussion on this? Other than to remove item number 7.
I don't know if we're gonna know. I think it's probably gonna die 2-2, but
Look, you just said.
what's the resolution number on this?
T.
T?
T is in Tom.
Okay. I move for approval of resolution R 2024-E with the elimination of two whereas number 6, whereas the park restricts the commercial opportunities of 2 commercial properties that pre-existing town ownership of said property, and clause 7, whereas said property located at 10 Meeting Heights will be a common property and a gathering place for both town residents and visitors.
I'll second it.
So tell me why you think that you disagree with this language about restricting the commercial opportunities of the 2. Why do you think that's not changing the use? What's the objection to that language?
I don't think it really needs to be in there, like, we're changing the name of the park.
Okay.
Because the citizens want to change the name of the park. Talk about all.
But you want to remain part.
It's not gonna remain a park.
Yes, I want to, if it's not gonna remain a park, then we need to have a separate discussion and decision on that issue.
When I say it can't remain a park, it's because it's not got the word park. That's all I mean. When I say it's not gonna be a park, it's because the word park is not there. That's it.
I'm
That's what I
trying,
think we should vote on.
I'm trying to figure out, sorry, feel like I'm a parent with
Okay,
squabbling and.
children, okay.
I'm trying to figure out what is driving for both of you. I get the sense, tell me if I'm wrong, Paul, you want the ability to still treat it as part of the town's park system and utilize park impact.
Correct.
Okay, so that's your most important thing. What's driving that for you? Just the name? Or is it trying to also name and also to help provide differing opportunities for commercial properties?
That. I'm more concerned about the 2 commercial
Okay,
properties
because-
on each side that were there before the town was ever deeded that property. Before
Because
it
I-
ever became a park.
If you're telling me that we are going to use park impact fees, Paul, on that, I think we need a resolution to designate all of our parks in this town as being parks, whatever parks they are. It could be the one right there, it could be this one, it could be any other one that we may have. It's so that we can use park impact fees. If we don't have it formally designated as a park, I would be even, I'm fascinated that we don't already have one designated as park by ordinance or resolution. Yet we have an impact fee ordinance that identifies them. It says we should be collecting impact fees to improve them.
And in fact, the 2019 impact fee study even lists Pocketville Park as one of the parks.
Okay.
To look at.
Okay, so that all being said, then, but you need to understand, so you want it to be a park, and sorry if you don't agree with that concept, but what you're trying to accomplish is you want it to be a park. That is completely counter to what mayor wants, is it to be not deemed a park so that under the liquor laws in the city of Utah, you can't have an establishment within a certain number of feet of a park,
Correct.
school,
Or church.
church. So your 2 desires are mutually exclusive.
I get it.
Do not work.
I get it.
So,
And all I'm saying, and so we submitted this to the people for a vote. People have voted. It's quite clear what the townspeople want. So if we take out these number 6 and number 7, and we will get a vote to change this name to Pocketville Hollow, I will be happy. But you're implying that even if you take out 6 and 7, that you're still gonna vote no.
No, if we take out
Okay.
6 and 7, I'm gonna. vote in
Fine,
favor.
fine. Make your motion then. Oh, you did.
And I
And you seconded it. Okay, all right. Fine. Call for a vote. And I see no reason for this to be anything other than a voice vote, so, all in favor? Okay, fine, thank you, that's done.
Any opposed? Just to make sure.
No, there was not, everybody said aye.
so that issue just needs to be dealt with.
Yeah, now we have to deal with the other issue that's come up.
We do not have it in parks.
And we have
And that,
nothing,
and that may be,
But yet with collecting park impact. In fact, so the sooner
The
we
better.
can pass that resolution, the better.
But I will say this, we had, when I was at the ULCT conference, 2 weeks ago, there was a whole workshop on, parks and how to use funds and get funds for parks, and, Mill Creek did a presentation that they have done before on this whole project that they did, beautiful project. And they call it a gathering space, and they use park impact fees, just wanted to let you know, that came up as a discussion. But they call it a gathering
Where
place.
I understand the impact fees, we can use them on what we designate as a park.
Yeah,
We don't have to legally designate it, as long as it's a common use.
You're exactly right. Well, I would need to go back to look at the, parks, capital facilities plan and impact fee analysis and the actual ordinance adopted. Because if it's more general than what we just say parks, if we say for parks and gathering places, that is owned by the town, then.
Yeah, and Utah doesn't have, like a lot of states require specific designations. Utah does not have a statute that does that, kind of leaves it up to
They
the
don't,
town
you're
to
right.
do. The current business that's out there is likely to get its liquor license if they qualify. Prior to us doing any of that, I don't think us subsequently doing it is gonna affect their liquor license after the fact.
They will be.
So I think that the concern is River Rock, this doesn't, it's most likely not gonna affect River Rock. May affect other commercial properties in the area afterwards.
It's honestly not gonna change, it's, the way I see it, and I've talked to some citizens too, it's not changing the use, no matter what we do with it. It's still, it's what we put on those rules that change the use. And if we put up signs like some of these suggestions in the comments, we're just putting up a sign that says no alcoholic beverages allowed in this area, and it's still used as a park. And still the funds can still be allocated to it from the impact fees.
I'm eliminating potential concerns in our.
Correct.
Okay, so let's move on. Item number 3 is review and possible approval of the proposed sign ordinance that we received from the planning commission. It doesn't have an ordinance number yet. And as I said, Darlene had already asked if this needed to go back to the planning commission. And she said that she has 3 questions for him. So
Okay.
she has number 1. That they had mentioned so this is a 3-part, the way this ordinance was prepared, it's done in 3 parts. There's first the actual ordinance. Then it says, the chapter is attachment 1. And then attachment 2 is some sign related definitions.
To be located within chapter 2 of title 10 of our.
I could not tell if they are supposed to be in with the ordinance itself or if it goes in with chapter 2. I couldn't tell that.
What the definitions?
Yes, if the
Things
definitions,
there intent, let's put it in chapter 2.
okay,
Because I've always been an advocate that we don't embed defined terms in chapters that they all.
go with the
Yeah,
chapter.
and, Ken can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the intent was the definitions would amend the definitions section.
Okay, but we would need a separate ordinance that's amending the definitions at the chapter.
Change the wording.
You can change the word.
You can say that chapter 10 title 10, chapter 2, section 1 is hereby amended to include these.
Okay, so what her question she says, is mentioning no LEDs in the definitions section sufficient to say no LEDs on the lighted signs? And I'm looking in the definition section and I'm not finding the definition of no LEDs in the definition section, I'm not finding it. And then she asks, what?
And talking about this, I think we decided that prohibiting it rather than prohibiting LED, rather than trying to define the multiple types of LED made more sense.
So when did you guys come up with that decision? Recently,
I
like
think
in the
just-
past
I
2 to
think-
3 weeks?
Just in the past month, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong. We were working on that just in this past month, but we decided that prohibiting LED was a better, easier method than trying to define LED.
But were you talking about this in regarding to the lighting orders that
The
you guys
lighting,
have been
to the-
working on?
Yeah, with respect to the lighting ordinance, which is some before stuff.
Okay, because she's talking about the sign
I
ordinance.
apologize. I
Okay.
was
So she wants,
How they're lit.
talking, yeah,
yes, and I'm not finding where there's anything about LED. Oh, wait, here we go. No, that's in the off-premise signs. If you look at the definitions, the very last line says off-premise sign on the first page of the definitions. They've got LED in there. And I'm not seeing it.
Could we not just add a definition or a prohibited?
Well, this is-
Section.
This is where what,
What they could do, I mean, the way I see it, we can go through this and adopt this and make amendments to this. Planning board can always come back and make an additional amendments.
I don't,
Bring it forward. So
I
they
don't,
make-
I don't object if we have just.
Or
that.
or send it back once, either way. I
It
mean,
sounds like they wanted it back. Ken, did you want this back?
now, well,
I got the idea from our last
Yeah.
conversations that
Yeah.
you possibly wanted it back.
we don't. We wanted to apply in both cases, and if we need to, if you need to send it back for us to give you clarification on that, then we'll do that.
Okay,
Or
well,
you're
her next,
just amending it later is what?
her next question was. In the billboard ordinance that they already passed earlier this year, they put in language regarding, she's calling it the grandfather language for the billboard ordinance, but it was not conforming.
Off-premise signs.
Non-conforming, sign. Because that's how the billboard is still allowed to be indexed as a non-conforming use, I think. So she wants to know if they need to put that language about the billboard in this final ordinance. And if the answer to either of these questions, does it require this to go back for another public hearing in the planning commission? If we put in the grandfather language regarding or non-conforming use language regarding billboards, and there's no mention of prohibiting LEDs anywhere in the ordinance, but she was wondering if they put a definition in here, is that good enough to prohibit LED signs? And I don't think so.
I don't like regulations to be embedded in definitions.
I don't either. I told her my thought was this is gonna have to go back if they want to, prohibit LEDs, but she just wanted to know what you thought.
And I think it should be plainly said. Because like Ken said, there's so
Anything
many
that's
different
regulatory
levels.
should be in the body
Yes,
of the chapter, not found in
Not found in a definition.
yep.
several chapters before.
Right.
But her question is, even if we send it back for them to make some modifications, does it need a public hearing with, if she's making a change about billboard language
Is it
and
significant?
prohibiting LEDs? Is it significant enough to require a public hearing?
I guess my answer would be, if it's going back to the planning commission,
Might as well.
what would be the harm in having it? And the chair can easily say, I'm going to limit the public hearing to the proposed changes to these 3 weeks.
That's true,
That's good.
yeah,
And not reopen this to
everything,
everything else.
Yep. okay,
It's gonna be more than 10 days before they have that meeting, so we can easily accomplish a public notice. And then no one can challenge.
so then Paul, you said that you told me in a text message that you had some changes that you wanted to do here.
They're just minor changes, but yes. But,
Well, I was just thinking if we send it back to them with this so that they can, actually prohibit LED signs and put in the language about the non-conforming use that she wanted to put in, that we could just send it back with your suggested changes too.
Yeah, I can, just to go through, let me run through them, so see what everybody else thinks.
Okay,
So Ken has,
we'll give all the notes on it.
it's pretty,
Thank you.
I don't,
And go to Misty to double check it.
yeah.
Okay, so where now, look at?
So I look at page 2, and we're talking about exemptions, and we go down the wall murals and painted walls.
Uh-huh,
That's all right as an exemption, but then it says signs must be removed after 30-day exemption. So if I understand that, you paint a wall, and then you gotta remove it after 30 days. But to me, if we have, and there can't be any text on it, there can't be any logo, so it's just a painted wall of the business. This tells me it's gotta be removed within 30 days, am I understanding that right? If so, I think that needs to be eliminated.
that one sentence.
Just that one, signs must be removed after 30-day exemption. Under number 8. Because if somebody, let's say somebody like Stagecoach is in here, but that's one that just came to my mind. You do build a big wall and you draw a Stagecoach on it.
You would have to remove the sign after 30 days.
You would have to move this sign after 30 days. There's no text advertising the business.
So maybe what we
And it's not a logo because it's not it just happened to just drew a Stagecoach.
So maybe we could ask them to clarify?
Yeah, or,
clarify.
yeah, what they mean and whether that needs to be removed.
Okay.
So that's my question.
Kind of coming into art and murals or.
Yeah, well, that's other concern I have too, is it's art, but as long as it doesn't have any advertising, I agree with that, like, first sentence after that. You can have painted walls so long as the sign is free of text.
Yeah,
The concern I have is why does it have to be removed after 30 days?
like the old Red Coyote, it used to have a beautiful
Right,
mural on it that should stay, because it was just.
Okay,
so that's the one that was one, the other was the next one down on the temporary signs. You got community signs, and then they were removed after 30 days. I don't have a problem with that, except for yard signs. And I'm not sure if you're talking about yard signs, are you meaning garage sale signs? Or just yard signs?
Yard sale means garage, so they're kind of the same.
So 30 days is pretty long to keep up a yard.
I was gonna say the same thing.
So you might want to create on the community signs, 30 days, I'm all right with community signs. And maybe add, except for yard signs, has to be removed within 48 hours
Yard
after
sales,
the yard sale
garage.
or garage sale.
Do you think of an exception that I would want to recommend?
What's that?
Organic firewood, Kenny organic firewood, I mean, it should never go away, if he wants to keep it there, let him have that.
I agree.
That is witty.
it's
It
almost
is
art,
really
it's almost
It's
art,
almost art.
Yeah.
because he did it as a joke.
And he's not really selling any firewood there, is he?
He did it totally as a joke.
Yeah.
He and I talked
Had
about
nothing
it.
to do
Just
with
have,
selling.
I think he sold some wood for a while.
I've seen some
But it-
people pulled over taking pictures.
Yeah, because they know it's a joke, because they know it's
Because I
not
was
for
asked,
selling,
like,
it's a
every
joke.
time we drove up to go eat at Austin.
I love his sign.
Help me understand, what is organic?
Well, what I've seen other towns do is they create a planning commission to say signs of historical and cultural significance approved by the planning
Yeah,
commission.
that one would be.
And that's what I would suggest for your organic. So
Well, I mean, everybody
It's
likes
a-
to in
we've
town.
got a special exception, but
Organic firewood doesn't have any retardant from airplanes.
Well, we got
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
But I would argue for the organic firewood sign, because this says temporary signs, I would argue it's not a temporary sign.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
It's
it's not
temporary.
Good luck one.
It is a yard sign.
we
But
should
it
have
is
to straighten
dark.
it back up.
Yes.
It's not temporary anymore.
Then going through, the other one that I have a lot of pause on, is flags.
Where is that?
It's number 3 on the temporary signs.
Oh.
Because first of all, it says up to 3 official flags or emblems of national, state, and local governments. Therefore, mine and Brian's sign, and although his is a marine sign, it can go down, his marine flag can go down, my army flag can stay up, but this would be prohibited.
I'll cover you when I'm for you.
This would be prohibited, my army flag would be prohibited under this, but I think that's approaching too much of a content. What type of flags do you fly? As much as I hate the insurrectionists flying of a flag, that's still a First Amendment right, and we shouldn't prohibit it.
I would agree.
But,
I have to
but
agree.
you can advertise with flags.
Yes,
Could you
now if
just,
it's advertising with flags, I understand that, that's fine. So you can prohibit flags that
maybe
advertise.
put, cause I'm writing these notes so I can.
Yeah.
type them up again. So maybe put, instead of viewing it this way, just put flags used for advertising.
Right,
Yes, that's what I'm thinking, because this whole thing, I'm wondering why,
I don't
number
want,
2.
I don't wanna limit the number of American flags we can have, or.
Well, they're not temporary, and they're not temporary, and they're not signed.
5 flagpoles on their property and fly 5 American flags.
I guess,
But I would say that, I'm saying, I don't think a flag is a sign.
Oh,
yeah,
Why is it used for
I can show
advertising?
you plenty of pictures.
Unless it's advertising.
flags are signs. Flags are
That's
signs.
what we just said, is
Yeah.
unless it's used for advertising.
Unless it's used for advertising, you gotta
Then you can
eliminate
take in
by advertising.
People on flags have even taken
Yeah, I understand
an American flag
You're
as
saying
looking and put an advertising on it.
So, okay,
No,
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 okay,
right.
So I just put
Hold on.
used for
I've got
advertising.
one for Paul.
okay,
You got a big Cubs banner?
Yes,
Okay, you fly that outside, are you advertising a professional baseball team?
Ooh. There's a thing.
I'm exercising my First Amendment.
right to say.
Yeah, I'm not advertising the baseball, yeah, but that's a good question. If I'm in Chicago, am I?
Yeah.
Okay, my other question is there's a lot of people that are NASCAR fans, they fly their NASCAR and they have like, you have Goodrich tires.
Yeah.
It's a NASCAR flag, but it has, you have Goodrich tires on there, but it says NASCAR on it.
are they flying it here in Virgin?
So what are we talking
Well,
about?
I'm just saying, people might be a NASCAR, but
Is the
they
concern
never
those
have fly their, you have Goodrich,
Is
but it
that
also
what the
has their
concern is?
NASCAR drive on it.
tall, long ones that?
Those are
false
those
flags?
Those are called banners.
Yeah, spin with
Call them flags when they sell
I
them.
call it banana flags.
Yeah, well, the long ones that
Yeah.
just say, that are long instead of just like a typical flag.
And,
Yeah, I'm pretty.
That's why I'm asking, is that kind of the drive behind this, was it to get rid of those type of flags? Because
Yes,
flags to me, I mean, if someone's laughing and they build a fort in their yard and their kid puts up a pirate flag, they should be able to do it with their
Yeah.
pirate flag.
it comes down, maybe it's not.
It's not advertising,
advertising.
so that's why I'm saying, could you
This
say
should be advertising flags.
advertising flags?
Yeah,
There you go.
the rest of this should never be, the rest of this, it should not even be in here.
but that does create an issue because a lot of the flags now, like, Heath was saying, like, Cubby flags will now have Adidas signs on it, baseball and everything's now becoming very.
The sign, the
It's
sign.
all
They
NASCAR,
got
that
sponsored.
all NASCAR
So
flags
don't-
have their.
But it could be
Because they're
advertising a business.
But they're not
Yes.
sponsored, we're not requesting a sponsor, they already have a sponsor.
So I
it's
think
not
you can define it as a flag that advertises a product or business on premise. Then that way you're just dealing with that premise and not the NASCAR flag or Cubby flag.
I like that.
So, just so you know, you were asking about those flags that are,
Yeah.
what you were calling a banana flag. On the next page, that's under prohibited.
It's prohibited, it's under, actually it's 2 pages further,
Any kind,
moving, animated, or wind-driven signs.
any,
That's under prohibited. Okay.
So what if I wanna put my Utah Tech
That's different, that's a flag.
banana flags up
No.
because it's homecoming week? I got 4 of them.
We
and I
can say
want-
no, but they
I
can
want-
argue on your property, they can argue their amendment rights again.
Yeah,
For
And
that.
my freedom of speech,
But that's a temporary sign, that's temporary, just for the homecoming, it's okay.
okay, this brings up a question that I haven't thought about. I have something at my property, and I've never thought about that till just now, it's something, protect wild Utah. It's in my front yard.
So that's the First Amendment sign.
And it's
Protect-
advocating the
Protect wild
position.
Utah, so
What-
I'm promoting something
Well,
rather than.
what you should-
advertising something.
I don't call that
you're
advertising.
promoting
No.
an initiative or an idea, not.
I don't.
Is it a
political sign though?
I would even argue
No,
your
it's
political sign is not an
It's
advertising
not
sign.
it's not supporting a political.
Yeah,
Candidate or candidate.
Party or candidate.
That's why you have time, place, and manner restrictions, meaning the size of the sign. You can prohibit the size and location of the signs, but you can't prohibit what goes on there.
Okay, so we're gonna ask, just so, because time's going,
I put use for
So-
advertising product or business on premises
yes, and the rest of that should be
or
taken
in
out.
town.
Okay.
That way you know that's the wording that you guys talked about just
Okay, what else did you have, Paul?
Then the other one, let's see, is in 5.1, second to, it says, second to the last sentence, that the total number of signs allowed per property shall be reasonable in number, strike be reasonable in number. Instead, shall not exceed a total of 6 such signs. You have kind of 2 standards. One can exceed 6 signs, but it still must be reasonable. Just still be reasonable in number.
Part of
Okay,
Part of
this,
it.
this section.
I've dealt with
Yeah, I
that
was just-
because it's got,
Yeah,
got
yes.
this two up here that. We don't have a billboard, but if you put all of their signs together and looked at the size of what they would be, it's the equivalent, but they've just kind of broken it up, if that makes sense. And I think that what the planning commission might have been trying to accomplish through some of that was to say, okay, you can't just break these up into 6 that are this size, because then you get a mega size, you get a 6 times mega
So, yeah, I
size.
think you're right with that. I don't even, I think that reasonable is an issue. How do you enforce that?
Oh, I don't like this, take that out.
I think.
I'm just saying, you might be able to say up to no more than X, so long as it doesn't exceed the total size allowed
Maximum
for 1 or 2. If you guys think 1 or 2 is acceptable,
Yeah.
but you can say, you can have 6, up to 6, as long as it doesn't
Yeah.
exceed the 2, or
Yeah.
2's overall size.
Okay, I put that.
Okay,
And then the other one, very quickly. Page. Page 6. Subdivision common entrance, I don't have a problem with that language. It has to be 6 feet from the right of way. The question I have, and maybe we can deal with it in the future with an amendment, is that one of the traffic
Page 6.
calming devices that you can use is an actual sign of an entrance to a subdivision in the middle of the road that narrows everything down and splits it. You may want to only go 3 feet versus 6, but we can deal with that at a future amendment. So I just put that there. It's the 6 feet I was concerned about if we wanted to do a traffic calming device. I haven't thought about the language. Maybe I go or post it up here when the time comes.
So you're talking about, I want to be sure, because I was pointing out something to
Right.
Misty, are you talking about like if you have an island? An island entrance, and you put the island, the sign on the, okay.
That becomes a traffic calming device
Yeah.
to slow people down going into that subdivision, which would be ideal for Desert Gardens.
So you like them closer together because it slows everyone down. That's the idea.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, it's in the middle of the road, and so the road narrows when you turn into that subdivision, you gotta go slower. And so the 6 feet from the right of way may be a problem in creating that type of sign. So maybe just say 6 feet from the right of way unless a reduction is granted by the planning commission for traffic calming device signs.
I'm gonna put it 2 ways. I put it the original way we said it, you said it, 3 feet might be better. If it as a traffic calming device, and then I'm gonna put unless,
Yeah, instead of saying 3 feet, just say from the public right of way, comma, unless
that's what I
public
wrote down.
planning zoning grants a reduction of minimum fee for traffic calming signs for entrance into subdivision.
Okay. They have to define
So
traffic.
it may not
calming
even have
sign.
to be 3 feet. it could
They have to
be-
come up with a definition for traffic calming sign.
Um,
I can just see people say, what's a traffic calming sign? So you're gonna
But
have.
use that as a traffic, use that not as a sign, use that as a traffic calming device.
Right.
Device.
That's what I put, that's what I
Device,
have written down,
thank you,
it's
Misty.
design, it's device.
And then I think 52.8 says sign standards for business and resort districts. Should that be zones instead of districts?
Yeah, you know what?
And should that be commercial and resort zones, I think?
We need to check, I know last administration, they went through and tried to change everything from zone to district. We'll have to see what is presently in our code, because I know they changed them all from zone to district. If you look at there, they did that over and over and over.
Yeah, so we need to check that.
Yeah.
And then the question is business, commercial, yeah, that's just.
Where's that? What's that?
They have it. Are we talking business and resort districts or commercial, whatever the term is used, we need to double check.
Okay, commercial versus business, okay.
Okay, and. Oh, there's a typo there on page 6. Last sentence, second to the last sentence, if ground elevation on SN location. And
Sign location, is that supposed to say sign?
This has SN,
What's it supposed to say?
sign.
sign location, yeah. And then my other ones are. Related to the last page, wait a minute. Oh, on page 10,
Okay,
on 52.9, or no, 52.9 abatement. Last sentence, it says the town or any town employee shall also have the authority to require removal. I don't like the fact that any town employee can go to somebody and say.
Should be code enforcement.
Should be code enforcement officer. I don't think it needs, I don't want any town employee.
okay,
Sorry, Crystal.
They're, I'll stop all in the code enforcement any day.
And then the rest,
But until we have one, isn't that you? And
Oh, I've got one about the non-conforming signs.
go ahead, I was looking at that too.
So I'm looking at 5210.2. It says business signs in use for 6 months or longer prior to the adoption date of this section that are non-conforming, but not legally so. How would that be? I don't think, scenario.
Is that the same word you were concerned about?
I was, yeah, I was
Shall
having
be
trouble with
removed
this.
and brought into compliance. My other question is, why are we picking out business signs? And are we treating business owners different than we are any other landowner?
Any, so it should say any sign,
So,
just to say
so,
sign.
to me, if you deleted 5210-2, and I don't know why we have 1, 2, and 3 underneath it, that probably should be 5210, 3, 4, and 5. I think we eliminate 2 and make the next one, which is what should be there, any sign located within the town in compliance with the applicable law on the date of adoption of this title, which is found to be non-conforming by reason of not being in compliance with the requirements of the sign standards of this chapter, shall be designated as legally non-conforming, except those signs that are deemed legal. You know, we need that last little clause, but, I mean, that's the typical definition of a non-conforming, a legally non-conforming sign. Existed prior to, and it was created when it was legal when it was erected. And now, because of the passage of time and changing the ordinance, it's now non-conforming. Well, it's a grandfather or legal non-conforming sign. So I don't like how we're singling out business owners and why that would make a difference. And even the use of the 6 months or longer, it was very confusing when I read that section. Other than that.
So were you saying that we should take out even, I know you said we should just delete that 52.10.2.
Yep.
Just delete
And
the
then
entire
call,
thing.
then call the next one that's number 1 underneath it, 52-10-2,
And three given.
52-10-3, 52-10-4.
Okay, so therefore we're not gonna have anything in there about the 6 month versus the 12 month thing. Okay.
Or business, or something specific to this business.
Then I have just some, going right above where I got stuck on that same issue, but right above that, it says 3 sentences up. It says have been erected after the first published date of consideration of this ordinance. Why not just say have been erected after the adoption date of this ordinance?
Where's this, where you looking?
1, 2, 3 signs up from 52.10 non-conforming signs.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to get caught up on this. That's kind of a best, pending ordinance
Yeah,
type concept, but it's like, let's get it passed and going forward.
and it's based on the adoption date. Yeah.
Okay, I'll point out one last thing here, the very last thing, 5211. Under conflict. Wherever this chapter conflicts with the Virgin Uniform Zoning Ordinance, that's an old thing, it's now the Virgin Uniform Land Use
Yeah.
Code. So,
And then again, under 52.10.1, same date, same thing, in existence on the adoption date of this ordinance. So delete the first published date of consideration, just do adoption date. We do it twice, we do it above
you're talking 5210
10.1
any legally constructed freestanding that is physically in existence on
on
the date.
adoption date of
adoption.
this ordinance. And then my final one is 52.10.2, and it's number 3. I'm trying to figure out, non-conforming sign may apply to the planning and zoning commission to regain full legal status if it is brought into compliance with the standards. So here's a question.
Yeah.
Look at 52.10.2, number 3.
Yeah.
You got a non-conforming sign that brought into the planning commission, may apply to the planning commission to gain full legal status if it is brought into compliance with the standards of this chapter. Doesn't that happen automatically?
Delete 3.
Delete 3. Yeah, so delete number 3.
We're just chalking it up. It was probably the last thing.
Yeah, 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 so that's it. Would you mind?
Okay, so we've got that, Misty
I
to,
do, are we doing anything
Yeah,
with definitions?
Yeah, we'll get that, it should be.
Misty wants to know if there's any changes on definitions that she's gonna be planning to type
I didn't have any changes on the definition.
And
I
I,
just reviewed that closely.
I'm understanding this from our last meeting, you still want me to type these up, because I didn't do it before. Because I thought we were not worrying about it, but if you want me to type it up.
oh, no, you don't have to, as long as.
No, I'm not even to it, because then it's less confusing for them.
It will make it easier for them if they have.
Right, because our last meeting, we were kind of, well, maybe we don't need the liaison, so I just wanted to confirm that I'm not, I'm still, because I'll put it on my mind and we'll do it.
No, we
But
said
if
if
I
I
will
liaison.
do it, then.
Okay,
I think Kent and everybody there would appreciate.
I think they would.
Right. Okay,
So I just I had one quick thing. Is, in the whereas, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth whereas, is SR 9 designated as a national scenic byway?
It is designated as a state, we did not get national.
So we should take that out.
We have to pick, we're one of the two. We did not, and I think we got state, not national.
It's not.
That's not national.
We're not national, everything else along Highway 9
okay,
is on the national scenic byway, just not the city, the town limits of Virgin.
Okay, so we should remove that.
I marked it, thank you.
I think the rest will probably cover that.
Yes, the last will go over the best. Okay, so we're turning this to planning commission with the changes that Misty is gonna talk to them about. And then we'll hold a new public hearing with only comment on the changes that have been proposed. Okay. All right. Item 4. Do we want to, issue a resolution supporting this amicus brief? Let's see, let me make sure, my understanding is they were actually asking us to support an amicus brief.
They want us, support or sign on, and they want us to provide money.
Oh, I didn't see that, I didn't even read it that close because we're not gonna be doing that.
Yes.
So,
You want comments?
yes.
I'll just have a very brief comment.
Okay.
At the work session, I had no idea what this was about, other than involved in Utah's state lawsuit that's going up to the Supreme Court. And afterwards, I went and watched the video, and I looked at the lawsuit filed by the state. I'm not sure why they're going straight to the Supreme Court. That's kind of a rare process. But
It's controversy between the state.
yeah, and I think they're trying to,
Jurisdiction.
I think they're trying to rely on, I mean, they can do that.
Yeah.
And I think they're trying to rely on the most conservative justices to grant it now. But I happen to be reading, was a Montana newspaper by all chances that had a quote from John Rupel. Do you know him as a law professor up at University of Utah? No, the quote from John Rupel, law professor, said in an interview that both the US Constitution, Utah Constitution is likely to stop the suit in its tracks.
Must be a common law professor.
Yeah. Yeah, and it says the Constitution grants Congress, not the states, the authority to make the decisions about federal public lands. Rupel said, further, the state's constitution explicitly disclaims all rights entitled to the unappropriated lands. Utah's claim would require the Supreme Court to reinterpret both those constitutional provisions in ways that are not intuitive, upsetting 150 years of settled Supreme Court law, and destabilizing land ownership throughout the West. I read another commentary by law professor, con law professor out of Utah, or out of California, that basically have the same analysis. My question would always be, what benefit to Virgin? I just don't see any benefit to the town of Virgin.
Do we see any
Signing
benefit to the
on.
state of Utah?
What's that?
I said, is there any benefit to the state?
Because our federal funds will support these right now, so if we take over management, it's gonna be state funds. Well, where do those state funds come from to
I
support
mean,
it?
the idea, the whole concept behind the lawsuit is that the state is better equipped and knows better what is best for public lands here in the state of Utah. And so thus it would kind of be governed better, possibly more efficient, but I strongly question, the financial ability of the state to do that versus the federal government.
That's what my next question was gonna be, do you think that they're going to petition in this to have the state,
Let me just tell you
the
something.
feds continue
If
to
they
pay?
set this precedent, if the Supreme Court were for some reason to set this precedent and to say that, the state of Utah, is the regulating body of all public lands within the state, do you think that they're gonna give one red penny of federal funding for the administration of that regulation?
No,
Congress is not gonna appropriate a damn dime.
Yeah, and right now, we get 50% of the oil and gas leases.
Yeah.
And of course, that will change.
If it's state.
And just think about fighting the fires. I mean, we would have to take all the responsibility of controlling and fighting all the fires that occur, and that alone is gonna cost a fortune. And then how do you manage property, especially here that runs along the Arizona border, when you got Arizona doing a different management plan? I just see.
If you have ecosystems along public lands that don't take any observance to state boundaries, you know what I mean? And federal government can regulate that ecosystem on the whole states can.
so is Utah, our state's going to be joining this one? But it's
No,
not-
no, our
or is
state's
our
the
state
one-
the only one suing?
Yes, it's our state.
So-called.
So we would be our own, and then, like you're saying, the feds would be doing Arizona
So,
still, right?
Yeah, and my understanding is that they are petitioning cert, meaning that they're asking for this to be decided by the United States Supreme Court. Because it's a controversy between the federal government and the state, and that's what the federal constitution says. That's within the jurisdiction of the highest court of the land. They are asking for cities, who are political subdivisions of the state, they would be willing to join in an amicus brief as to the petition. Serve and give some money, because they think for some reason that they've got enough conservatives on the high court right now that there's a possibility this might work, but even conservatives can't look past the
Constitution.
US Constitution.
I kind of feel like we have to look at both sides. I don't have an education on this at all to make it, so I would have to rely on
This seems to be a takeoff of the sagebrush rebellion.
Well, yes, according to what I was told was they tried this before with, all the national park, all the federal lands. Then they tried it the second time when they realized, oh, here's gonna be the problem with the parks. Then they tried for BLM and US forestry.
Now,
And now they discovered that wasn't gonna work. So now they're trying to get the BLM land. So
yeah,
they've gone through the different levels of.
yeah, the unappropriated land, which is really a concept that I think they came up with as to maybe to hang their teeth on something.
But shouldn't, I mean, I don't understand where they're going. They want to be able to manage our own lands and maybe have less regulations, so I don't understand why they're not just asking for that. Instead of trying to take it back completely, because we're gonna.
I think this is not a management or money issue. I think it's a political issue.
Totally.
I think this is all politics.
Okay, so,
Can I comment?
yes, please.
I agree, it's interesting of this, to all of you kind of come into agreement to some sort here, but I heard a new thing on the news, is driving here today. Where the state is asking that the federal government, allow communities in the state that have, rural land management. Not necessarily park or things like that, but, or forestry, but BLM land around, like we do. Okay? Give us a couple acres to put affordable housing. So give us the land, let us give it to the developer can put in affordable housing,
Which they'll never do,
what do you think?
which they will never put in affordable housing, they're gonna get every penny they can get.
There you go. Because nothing's affordable. But, yeah, and so that was on the news today, the state's trying for that angle, well, that made more sense to me than this one.
But that's something that can be worked out with Congress under some type of management act. I mean, Congress can still dispose of property related to BLM, so that doesn't require a lawsuit, that just requires us to utilize our vote in Congress and to work that through. So here, I'm not gonna make a motion, I don't even want to die for lack of a motion.
I wasn't even gonna make a motion, all I was gonna ask is, do we wanna support this?
Or other communities support this? Do we know?
I know Springdale's not going to, they haven't voted on it yet, but they're gonna be like us. I don't know about Rockville, all these other towns in Washington
Well,
County are totally on board with this, they're all signed.
Tokenos too?
Oh, I don't know about
I'm
Toberville.
just thinking of the smaller communities, not the bigger ones.
Okay, yeah, I have not heard, I did not hear what Toberville's mayor said,
And
but
Leeds
all the
and-
other mayors were just like, yeah, I'm like, okay.
It's
So-
just a-
It's a political, or.
So I was not planning on a motion, all I wanted to ask is, do we wanna support this? No,
No,
Ms. Steve?
Well, I'm uneducated on it, okay, I'm gonna have to say, I'll just have to let us know. Yeah,
Okay, so 3 no's and 1 abstain.
because I'm not educated, if my knee jerk, I would be like, property, they should do it because it's our property,
But
but
it's not our, but that's
what I'm saying, I'm not.
It's not our
educated
problem.
enough to do that, to know.
And that was Paul's whole point, was it's not.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 5, so that was number 4. Item 5 was the ratification of the decision by Zion Regional Collaborative to award the corridor management plan to Corridor Solutions, the consultant who would do the plan. And
so
it is, hold on before you say something. So far, the vote is all by, only a couple of us have sent our votes in by, in written form. Everybody else has just been verbal. So we just want this to be subject to, written confirmation from the rest of the members. Although they've given a verbal that they want Corridor Solutions, they have yet to write it in an email to say, well, Corridor Solutions is their choice. But they've said it, just not written it. Okay, second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
I,
Okay, then I will sign that. Then the next thing is to, item 6, authorize the town engineer to execute the contract for the 2024-2025 road projects. You guys, Ron was here at the road meeting and did the presentation on that. And he has the, contract, the person he wants to award the contract to, and he just needs authorization from us to execute the contract. Do you need to know any more, because he presented it to
he
you?
was there.
Yes, he presented everything to you.
Celebrating his 45th anniversary tonight.
Yeah.
That's why he wasn't here today.
We
Yeah,
gave-
but that-
We gave him permission.
Oh, okay.
I think we told him to go home.
Go home.
And not be here.
Okay, so, motion to authorize the town engineer on this item 6, I need a motion. So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. The last thing here, Keith, I need your input here. We are applying for a CID matching grant for the stormwater, drainage master plan, stormwater master plan. We have to have a public hearing, CID requires a public hearing, and they want it done before October 1st. Now, which is coming up, and because we have to, I said, I'm having a public hearing next month anyway to amend our quarterly budget, I could just do it then, and they said, no, it has to be before October first. So we got an email, I'm gonna read it to you. And I'm just like, I am just not so sure about this. This is from Gary Zabriskie. CIB does not require more than a 24-hour notice for a public hearing. Items dealing with land use are covered under LEPA, and those are 10 days, as are budget hearings. You will be fine if you give 3 to 4 day notice, but 24 is all that's required for CIB. Then he says, all applicants, which would be us, shall hold a formally noticed public hearing to solicit comment concerning the size, scope, and nature of any funding request to be submitted to the CIB prior to review by the board. A complete and detailed scope of the work shall be given to the public and be documented in the minutes. And then talks about what all needs to be in the minutes. Then it says, you have a choice on when to hold your public hearing. Option A and option B. Option A is, he said, I spoke with Heather Polson at the state CIB, and if you want to hold the public hearing during your next town council meeting, which I understand is October 15th, then by the time you get the minutes prepared for that meeting and get them to the state CIB, and then you have the review of the state CIB staff, it may be well into November before you're funded by staff. Option B, you schedule a public hearing only on a date like Thursday the 3rd, 26th, have the mayor and clerk there. That's it. And any public that chooses to attend. Then you only have to prepare the minutes for one hearing and get those up really quickly. You can then get the staff review and probably a letter of funding by mid-October. So he's saying that this public hearing only, and then he says, I suggest you use option B. So he's saying that 3 to 4 day notice, and the only people who have to be there are the mayor and the clerk.
There's not be a public hearing of the council, it sounds like. A public hearing of the city.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's why I said, can we do this?
Well, yeah, and it's also not you're not adopting any sort of amendment to a land use regulation.
All we're doing is applying for a grant.
Application, yeah.
Okay,
And so it would probably be the mayor acting through her secretary capacity.
Yes.
yes, okay, so I want to make sure that we can set this for a
Everyone
date.
shows up at the date and time.
Okay,
This is the date and time of the public hearing.
and so this is not,
Here's a copy of our application. And this is the scope inside that application.
I'm all for having the mayor be the only one at the meeting.
thanks, Paul.
Hey now.
That's why you get paid the big bucks.
Okay, so tomorrow then Crystal and I will choose a date and prepare a public hearing notice, but it's just not gonna be the town council. It's a public notice of a public hearing by the city, is what you said?
By the town.
By the town? Okay. Okay, keep that in mind, Crystal.
And don't call it a town council public hearing, call it a public hearing town version regarding application.
For CID grant, okay, all right. So, motion to adjourn,
Yep.
somebody, motion to adjourn,
Second,
all in favor?
on,
Don't forget, I want to talk to you about the code enforcement
yes.
person, okay,
Who seconded?
April,
I didn't. Oh, who seconded?
oh, sorry, Paul,
Yeah.